This is Geraldinho. Geraldinho always heard things like, study so you can be someone in life, those who don't study have no future. But no one ever told him what to study. Until one day, Geraldinho stopped and thought, if the ultimate goal of studying is to make money, then before studying, you need to know what to study. He spent hours thinking about this and finally came to a conclusion. I'm going to study to become a millionaire. Geraldinho's dream was now simple, to graduate from the College of How to Get Rich. But there was a problem. That course doesn't exist, and it never has. Geraldinho realized there were courses on how to become a doctor, how to become an engineer, how to become a lawyer, but the course on how to become a millionaire, he didn't have access to that. Even so, there were still thousands of rich people in the world, and many of them weren't doctors, engineers, or lawyers. Geraldinho started to find all of this strange and realized that all the colleges taught him to become a specialist in a field, sold him a diploma to get a job, and in the process, make someone else rich. He realized that every year, more newly graduated professionals are thrown into the job market than there are job openings being posted on LinkedIn. These people compete in selection processes, diplomas in hand, for the chance to work for a millionaire. That's when Geraldinho thought, college is terrible at teaching me how to get rich, but great at making me useful to those who already are. Instead of creating a course on how to get rich, the system created another. How to be an excellent employee, obedient, complacent, and highly qualified to make someone else rich. Only now did he realize how little he had learned about making money. The education system only taught him to chase the goal of picking the right answer on the college entrance exam, and to hell with the rest. Geraldinho started to get out of breath. In the middle of this whole bad trip, Geraldinho started researching to understand what was going on. And that's when he discovered that this was a much older and bigger problem than he thought. At the beginning of the 20th century, one of the richest men in history, John D. Rockefeller, founded the General Education Board. The stated goal was noble, to improve public education in the United States. But behind the marketing, there was a less talked about motivation. Rockefeller and other magnates of the time were building industrial empires, and they needed cheap and obedient labor. The truth is, they didn't want a nation of thinkers. They wanted a nation of workers. The entire modern educational system was shaped based on the industrial model. Classrooms lined up like factories, bells that sound like sirens, centralized authority, and a focus on repetition and memorization, where kids like Geraldinho learn to memorize, repeat, and obey. At the same time, they're punished for questioning. You're trained to be a good cog in someone else's machine. Or as Pink Floyd would say, another brick in the wall. Knowing all this, the million-dollar question is, what should you study to get rich? It's practically impossible to get rich without selling something. But let's go further here. The fact is, everyone is always selling something all the time, including you. And if you don't learn to sell a product, a service, or an idea, you'll end up selling the most precious thing you have, your own time, for cheap. And that's the slowest and most limited way to make money, because your time is limited. If selling your time were the right way to get rich, Chris's dad, who had 2 jobs, would be a millionaire. But instead, he spent his whole life counting coins and trying to save every penny. Learning how to sell is crucial to making money. All the millionaires Geraldinho knew got rich by selling something. This is a very important tool, but you're also going to need something else. You could be the best salesperson in the world, but if you're selling door to door, you'll still be trading time for money. Think of ways to sell the same thing to 10, 100, or 1,000 people, and that's where the power of scale comes in. Scale means multiplying your results without multiplying your effort. While the traditional salesperson sells one-on-one, the person who understands scale puts a video online, an ad, a virtual store, a sales funnel, and sells while they sleep. They create systems that work for them. While Geraldinho was selling his time, other people were selling products, courses, ideas, and subscriptions on a large scale using the internet, technology, and automation. And the craziest part about this, today you don't need to be rich to scale. You just need to know how to use the right tools. The problem is that college doesn't teach any of this, because teaching you how to scale would be teaching you how to leave the system. That's not interesting to those who depend on your cheap and obedient labor. After Geraldinho understood the importance of selling, and after he realized he needed to scale, he also figured out one of the biggest traps for those who start making money: spending to look rich instead of buying things that actually make you richer for real. Expensive watches, designer clothes, all of that might impress people, but it only empties your wallet and feeds a cycle where you have to work harder and harder just to keep up appearances. The rich do the opposite. They buy assets, things that put money in their pockets even when they're not working. And in the midst of all this, there's a detail nobody tells you. The value of your money is being eroded by the system. You work, save, economize, and the next year you can buy less with the same amount. Meanwhile, those who understand the game protect themselves. They trade colorful pieces of paper that lose value over time for real assets that appreciate over time. And finally, Geraldinho realized that the game was never about getting good grades, having a perfect resume, or hanging a fancy diploma on the wall. It was about understanding the rules of the game that almost no one talks about. While many continue to follow the industrial treadmill of studying, graduating, getting a job, going into debt, working for 40 years, and hoping for retirement, Geraldinho stopped wasting time studying nonsense and went after learning things that were actually useful for his goal of getting rich. He learned how to create value, how to sell, how to scale, and how to buy assets. Geraldinho's life was never the same again.